Lawsuit dismissed against 13 marijuana testing labs in California. Anresco Laboratories and Infinite Chemical Analysis Labs have withdrawn their lawsuit against 13 competitors they allege manipulated marijuana testing results. When customers and business MJ Biz Daily has learned. According to the document, the two California-based labs filed a dismissal without prejudice August 3rd in the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California. Josh Swider, co-founder and CEO of San Diego headquartered Infinite Chemical Analysis Labs, told MJ Biz Daily he plans to file a new lawsuit against the defendants. We stand by the allegations and merits in the complaint filed in federal court, he said via email. However, with further analysis, and each of the defendants is aware, we anticipate filing a new complaint very soon. We look forward to providing further comment upon the filing of this new complaint. Swider has gained widespread recognition in recent few months since his lab has been at the forefront of a pesticide scandal that has rocked the regulated cannabis industry. Infinite Chemical Analysis and Anresco were among the labs to cite the presence of illegal pesticides in numerous cannabis products for sale in California's regulated marijuana market and publicize those findings. His complaints to regulators at California's Department of Cannabis Control and Governor Gavin Newsom led to an investigation by Weed Week and the Los Angeles Times that chronicled numerous contamination issues within the state's marijuana supply chain. Since that June report, the DCC has issued several product recalls citing illegal pesticides, and there were actually, I think, 3 or 4 more that came out last week, along with a voluntary recall for advertising to children. The defendants stand by the results, however. Myron Ronay, CEO of Long Beach-based Bell Costa Labs, one of the 13 defendants, took issue with Anresco and Infinite's methodology. They didn't test the same product we tested. I stand by all of our results, Ronay told MJ Biz Daily in a phone interview. He also criticized the role the plaintiffs are taking on, considering all the labs are competitors. Ultimately, they're not the arbitrators of the California cannabis industry, he said. The DCC is, and they're actually doing investigations, pulling product off the shelves and testing product. They're trying to file frivolous complaints against us to hurt us financially. Spencer Wong, CEO of Pasadena headquartered Encore Labs, another defendant, questioned the motives and the merits behind the lawsuit. Is it just a publicity thing for them? Wong said in a phone interview, a lot of the stuff in the suit is based off their own testing results, not the DCC. The DCC did not come out and say there are gaps in the testing. Wong said Encore Labs is prepared to continue the legal battle in state court, where the case will likely be refiled. They're just allegations at this point, and there is no evidence. So I think that this is an interesting story to continue unfolding. I agree with both sides of it to a certain extent. I do feel like Infinite and Anresco are doing something to bring publicity and more business to themselves, as opposed to just trying to do a good service for the community. I would love to be optimistic and believe that big executives like to think about the children and think about others, but I think that they're thinking about their bottom lines, because the fact is that there are way too many analytical testing labs in California. There's not a large enough market to sustain the volume of labs that have popped up in the last 5 years, and they're scrambling for business. And what we understand as licensed operators is that means that somebody might call you and be like, hey, you want a 56% potency report? I got you. You want this for free? You want me to add this on? Do you want me to look the other way? Because I think when this lawsuit first came out and we were focusing more on the operators, some of the labs were definitely saying that they were told by operators to look the other way, especially in things that aren't required testing. I do, however, agree that we know that there's wrongdoing through the analytical system. So I think it's a good thing that Rico didn't wear his Bell Costa Labs hat today. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. And it sucks because this is a small industry, especially at a certain level. So a lot of these people, we like these people personally, and it's hard to see when people are going through professional issues like this, and you know that there are issues, that line of delineation. So I wish the best to everybody, but at the end of the day, we have a duty to protect the regulated market as well as its consumers.
Man, this lawsuit that was dropped, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this lawsuit was filed shortly after the whole LA Times story came out in regards with testing. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, those things happened all about the same time. There was also a lawsuit filed against operators.
And now the main testing lab, the one that was saying how everyone's products are all dirty, is now dropping a lawsuit against all of the other testing labs that it originally
they had it dismissed without prejudice. So with prejudice means you can't refile. Their intent is to refile it, but I think it's funny that they're saying they'll refile because they needed to do further analysis. So maybe if everybody did more analysis, we'd have safer products and we wouldn't have these frivolous lawsuits.
Maybe they need to recalibrate their machines again.
Well, and this is what I always see when people start suing someone, right? And you're suing them for a monetary loss. You're suing them for money because you're trying to make money. Sue them for $1. Pull the whoever, Taylor Swift thing in Denver, whatever. Sue them for $1. If you want to really just truly make a point and you're here to protect the consumer base and call attention to these issues, you called attention to it. The DCC's looking into it. We see in the number of recalls that have come out. They've issued more recalls this year than they have in the previous years combined. So obviously they're paying attention and they're seeing these gaps, right? And these operators that once were just trusted as scientists, because as a scientist, you should care that your science is finite, and they don't. So if this was really truly about the integrity of the product, the integrity of the industry, and protecting the consumers, then this would not be a civil suit for monetary damages.
Interesting perspective, Jenny Beth. Yarrow, what do you have to say about this? Or Rico? Rico, you're about to leave in a second too, aren't you? Okay.
You're on mute, Dope Daddy.
Yeah, you're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. Can't hear you. No one's
I gotta leave right now.
Go.
Yarrow, can you do your thing and hit me with some of that Shire magic?
Oh,
yeah, I will. As the dopest dad on the street exits stage left, Kubrin chimes in to say, I don't understand dismissing a lawsuit because it doesn't mean you have a win. They say that they're going to refile, and maybe they will. I understand that it's really expensive to engage in legal back and forth. And unless you prevail or there's a settlement, it's hard to see the optics of a win in this course of action. Also, when you allege pretty heinous stuff, at some point you got to back it up with receipts, right? And it doesn't sound like this particular lawsuit got to that point. And so, again, I don't play a legal analyst on a major news network, but would those other 13 labs now countersue for slander and libel? I don't know.
I think they could. I think they definitely could.
I mean, if you'd say that somebody's doing something wrong and dealing from the bottom of the deck, and then you don't produce through the course of discovery, interrogatories, the back and forth, if you don't produce that, one could argue that that's interfering with your competitor's business.
Yep. That is very, very
That
true.
said, I do think there's some fire where the smoke has occurred, and I do think there's some merit to all of this. So, as a hardware judge, Jason, I'm concerned about this very deeply.
I bet. I don't doubt it. What do you have to say about this, Mathieu St, Germain, all this fraudulent testing going on out there?
Every part of the weed industry is somehow simultaneously on fire and circling the drain. Or your own weed. Get out of all of this bullshit. It's worst thing that's happened cannabis in decades. But at the same time, there's something that exists outside of constant fuckery, lawsuits, ridiculousness, and substandard products, and that's called people growing weed on their own without a permit. They actually give a care to quality. Just get out of the weed game. Don't go into a weed store. Talk to your friend. Talk to your friend's, 18-year-old little brother. Talk to your friend's kids. Find somebody who's young and cares. Like, it's the same thing it was when we were old, man. Like, all the older 50, 60-year-old hippies would come to us when we were in our early 20s because they knew that we knew where to get the fire. And it's not going to be an illegal weed store. Legal weed stores are trash. Do it.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Yep. Big middle finger to the whole legal weed industry.
Man,
How's your generational wealth treating you guys? You're not making it? That's right. Guess what? Weed is not about generational wealth. It is not about infinite scale. We're seeing the same thing with mushrooms happening that we're seeing with weed, which is only really do it well at a smaller scale. The message, the intelligence, and the substances will continue to evade the egotistical and avaricious grasp of the people who are suffering inside from the amount of lack they have, that they feel that they need to continue to accumulate ever larger piles of wealth like a dragon while not sharing with their fellow human beings. And somehow their hearts are hardened and cold and leave people out in the streets and for themselves, shivering without a care. Fuck all this stuff. Grow some weed in your backyard. Share it with your friends. Get it for a massage. Get it for some tomatoes.
And separate from Matthew's call to action for a better mindset and better way of living, the problem that I have with this lawsuit specifically is that I've been evangelical about saying that one of the best things about regulated cannabis is lab testing and consumer safety. And when we see these dust-ups between these limited number of laboratory companies in California, where 2 are filing suit against 13 and then not producing the receipts to back up the allegations, they've already done damage through the court of public opinion with the headlines and the news cycle. And my concern is that lab testing and that consumer product safety that regulated cannabis has theoretically been able to provide the end user / patient / customer is really, really important. And everybody should be a stakeholder in wanting to see that creates this plank of confidence for spending too much money with too much taxes at a dispensary. And so safe weed is really, really important. And when we see this kind of saber rattling, I wonder who it serves and how we get to a place where we can say, yeah, that was a good use of time and money for everybody.
Well,
It serves the same people that every other realm of business serves, Yarrow. It serves the moneyed class, and they're full of lies to get their money. That's what we're seeing with the testing labs. That's what we're seeing with the stores. That's what we're seeing with the brands. There's 1% of 1% of the brands that aren't doing that, and you already know who you are, so you know I'm not talking shit about you if your weed is actually fire. You can tell that. Go look in the mirror and know who you are. Man, all the labs lied to make money. All the brands lied to me. Look at Flocana. They support the local farmers. Well, they don't. They took all the local farmers. They ripped them off. They put their pictures on billboards, bought their own property in Lake County, ripped off all of their shareholders. Like, we can just go through this at length, man. And one company that I can shout out to is Alien Labs and Connected. The only company I know that is surviving at scale and actually producing weed that I would actually care to smoke. And Ted, the of Alien Labs, back to the community with like really interesting content, interesting ads, and interesting givebacks. Again, 99% of this stuff is just bullshit. Just go grow some weed, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, find out who's growing some weed in a tent or in their garage. We'll gladly trade you a car wash or maybe rides to school for their kid for some weed. Maybe you can throw them $100 an ounce. Like, this whole thing doesn't work. The only way this is going to work, the only way we can save ourselves is by taking action locally and making local networks of support amongst each other, so that when the EMP comes and all of the great cameras and technology fails, that we can continue to ourselves eat food.
Well,
some sort of great.
Well, I will say this. Go ahead, Jenny. Then we got to move on.
I hear you, Mathieu St, Germain, and I do, and I wish we could all live in the forest and be nips, and we're all in, just this ground is squishy and we're all happy. But like everybody sitting on this call, we've all made money from cannabis, right? Like the passion and the love and the purpose is what gets you through when shit sucks, because oftentimes this industry shit sucks. Nobody goes to work for free. So I'm not going to fault anybody for making money. What I fault them for in this article is they're doing something they're trying to put forth is a, righteous action to try and protect people. And it is not. This is a shakedown because they're looking at their bottom line, and it's not what they wanted to see at the end of 2023. So I think that, I don't fault anybody for making money. I'm obviously a fan of capitalism. I'm obviously a fan of get yours. I'm definitely not a hard-hearted, selfish, shitty person. But I also know that nobody gets up for work in the morning and goes in for free.
Well, in Resco Labs, I'm just going to say they must have the strongest pullout game in the testing space. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.